Morning, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Morning, Simone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was
It's
trying to
all
figure
right.
out if I was on mute or not.
Morning. We'll just give everyone a chance to log in. Morning, Paul.
Morning.
You all right?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hi, Nicole. Just seeing everyone's face. Don't worry, if you've got your camera on, we're not going to call you out. Hi. Right. Good to get started? You ready, Danielle?
Yeah, ready.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Facebook Advertising Everything That You Need to Know to Get Started event. We are really thrilled to have you here. Yeah, let's get started. So first off, we'll start off just introducing Gather Social. So Gather Social are a social media marketing agency. We have social at the forefront of everything that we do. We're really lucky to be a Facebook agency partner, which means that we actually get contact with a real person at Facebook. Through this, we've learned a lot over the last few years, including lots of insights training, one-on-one talking through campaigns, and we're constantly trying to achieve maximum results for all of our clients. We have a really wide range of clients, from small little restaurants, small businesses, up to multi-million-pound businesses and everything in between that. That means that everything that we're going to talk to you about today is backed by real data and the stuff that we've actually learned. And so hopefully everyone's going to be able to leave with something valuable to use within their own business. So just a really quick introduction to myself. My name is Juliette. I'm the digital marketing manager at Gather Social. I've worked at Gather for about 3.5 years now, and started at the company as a content creator, quickly started to take on the Facebook advertising side of the majority of our clients. And I've worked my way up to kind of be in control of a lot of the client stuff, training of our team here at Gather as well. And yeah, I work on multiple range of campaigns on a daily basis.
And I'm Danielle. I'm the creative content lead at Gather. And I also started as a content creator about 2 years ago. And my main focus and my day-to-day is working on the creative behind the Facebook ads. So I'll hopefully be able to give you a bit of an insight into where I think you could best be using different types of creative with Facebook.
So to give you a little bit of an idea into how the structure of today is going to work, we're going to start off by just setting the scene with a little bit of data, just to give you an idea of why you should be doing Facebook ads and why they're really so important. We're also going to delve into a little bit about the creative and where you can start with the creative, because to people who aren't necessarily creative people, and that can be a little bit daunting. We're also going to provide guidance on some Facebook audiences, different types of audiences that you can build and where you can kind of start with that. And then we're going to move on to step-by-step how to build a Facebook campaign and the different types of campaigns that you can build as well. At the end, we'll have the opportunity for questions. So if you do have any, please note them down as you go along, and then we'll open up the floor for everyone to ask anything towards the end. So I'm going to get started with a bit of a video. This video is a couple of years old now, but it's still very relevant in the sense that it shows you how important digitalization is. And bear in mind that because this is a couple of years old, and obviously due to the pandemic, this has been accelerated more so than is in this. But it's just a good starter to set the scene. So welcome to the blue sky age, as we say in that. That's a really good video. I love to show people just to kind of understand why digital is so important, and the fact that actually we're really at a stage now where you cannot ignore it. And Facebook advertising, every single business should be doing. So let's get into that. We're going to start off with bookings.com. So I like to use bookings.com as an example to kind of get you thinking about your content from a different perspective. So bookings.com, obviously, I'm assuming everyone on this call has either heard of or used booking.com at some point. They sell holidays, weekends away, as you probably know. And in to be realistic, this is the same product that they are selling to everyone. So I could go on there, I might book my next ski trip there. You might go on there and book your summer holiday to Corfu or wherever. That is the same thing that they're trying to get everyone to go on and book through that. But they're not going to use a picture of Corfu with some kids going down a slide to attract me, but they would attract me using a skiing picture because I like skiing. And what you have to get into the mindset and what we can learn from bookings.com, and they do this really, really well. If you head on to their website, you'll probably jump on and kind of see their ads as you move on to Facebook and Instagram. But what we can learn from them is that they use a lot of content and they use a lot of different types. And if you use the same mindset that bookings use, whether you're selling a product or whether you're selling a service, get it into your head that you cannot sell the same thing in one type of format. So really getting into the mindset that you should be doing it in loads of different ways, basically. So some data to get you to understand the importance of social. So at the moment, social is the #1 discovery platform about how people find out about their brands and products. So as you can see here, 47% using social media to find out about brands and products. When you actually come down here and you look at some of these other things where people are finding out brands and products, you can see they're using websites. They're using mobile apps, they're using radio and podcasts. Most of that is now consumed digitally as well. So these parts are also being driven by the social part at the front. So this is the most important thing. And as a brand, you're going to be silly to miss this out. And it really is going to drive all of that, about even if it's a long-term gain, and how people are going to be finding about you. Mobile has changed the way that we consume. Everyone's got a smartphone pretty much. The average person is now spending over 4 hours a day on their phone. I work in social media, but I'm spending 8 hours a day on my phone. The average person also is checking their phone up to 80 times a day. If you're using Facebook ads, you're against people who are spending millions and millions of pounds on advertising for TV, and everyone just sits on their phone during the adverts anyway. So if you're not creating your content for mobile, then you need to rethink that. 2 billion people use Facebook every single month. The chances are that your customer is going to be within these 2 billion people. 1.6 billion people worldwide are connected to a small business on Facebook. So if you're a small business, Facebook is the place that you should be. And when we talk about Facebook as well, we're talking about Facebook as a whole product as opposed to just the app. So Facebook also owns WhatsApp, it owns Instagram, and it owns a lot of the audience network. So if you're going on the Mirror to read articles or anything like that, you see the ads up on the side, that is owned by Facebook. Your ads will just follow wherever your customer is. So it doesn't really matter what they use. So what are some important factors for your high performing ads? And this is what we're going to delve into for the next hour or so. And if you get these 3 things right, you're on track for success. So #1 is your creative. Are you creating enough content? Are you creating it for your audience? Are you creating it for yourself? or are you creating it for your people who are actually buying your product or your service? Number 2 is your audience, and we'll get into that a bit further down the line. But think about who is your audience, stereotype them. What do you have a stereotypical gender, age? What kind of things are they into? What brands do they follow? All of those things are really important for you to consider. And number 3 is budget, which is something that's hard to answer, but it does depend on what you're trying to achieve. And Facebook ads really don't have to be expensive. You can achieve good results for as little as £1 a day. So how many images does the average person see a day? Well, anyone want to take a guess? Feel free to chuck into the comments how many images you think that we see on a day-to-day basis. The answer is between 5,000 and 10,000 images. And what this actually means is that it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It doesn't matter if no one sees it, if no one likes it. It really doesn't matter actually if you send something out that's got a spelling mistake, because we see 5,000 to 10,000 images a day. Realistically, are you going to remember? It's what, 10, 13 already? Can anyone remember anything that they've seen this morning? I can guarantee the answer is probably no. So get into the mindset that nobody sees and nobody cares. So content is something that scares a lot of people. I have many conversations with clients where they're like, oh God, we just don't have time. We don't know where to get started. A lot of business owners, you're not necessarily focusing on marketing. You might not be a naturally creative person, but that's okay. And we'll talk to you about some of the ways that you can get started with some easy options for content. So I've broken that down into the content pyramid. So at the top, you can see we've got pillar content. And this is great because I'm going to assume that everybody on this call has probably already got some pillar content somewhere. Your website, if you've got one, is a form of pillar content. Other bits of content, pillar content might be blogs, it might be interviews, long play videos, and anything like that. Think about your pillar content being as what you want the end game to be, where you want your customer to go. You want them to read more. As we saw in the video at the beginning, we've got an attention span of 7 seconds. You cannot be grabbing people's attention with a 300-word long blog on social media. You've got to be thinking about how can you then position this pillar content into pieces of micro content, which is the middle part, to actually get them to go and check out whatever the pillar content is that you decide. So think about what you've already got. It might be a website, it might be a blog, it might even be a whole product range. Turn that into hundreds and hundreds of bits of micro content. So whether that's images, whether that's quotes or testimonials is a really good place to start. GIFs, memes, little pieces of easily digestible content that your customer's going to stop on their timeline and look at. And then at the bottom, we've got the distribute phase. So that's basically, you want to put it all out there. You want to be testing across all of the platforms. And that's something we'll get onto a bit later on in terms of like from an ads point of view. But really, the more, the better. So if you've got, for example, one product that you're trying to push, turn that into hundreds of different options. Put it into ads, get it out there, test it with your actual audience. If you go and have a product shoot and pick, oh, that was my favorite picture, you're choosing that for yourself. You're not thinking about what your audience actually want. And realistically, you don't know what your audience wants until you get it out there. And like I said before, no one sees, no one cares. So if it doesn't get any likes or no one sees it, it's not the end of the world. A simple formula that we can kind of pop down into, and this in a realistically is actually a circle because it's ongoing. You want to always be in this phase. And if you're doing it properly, you don't have to spend loads of time and effort on this as well. So we've already mentioned about documenting your pillar content, creating that into loads of little bits of micro content, and then you're distributing it across all of your platforms, because as well, you're going to reach different types of people on different platforms. The most important part is this listening part. So if you're not going into your content and reviewing what's working and looking at what your audience is actually resonating, then there is genuinely no point in you even doing this. You want to be learning from, okay, I've put out all of these different options. I've done videos, I've done big text, small text, close-ups, black and white, whatever. I can see that females are resonating with the black and white. What you want to think is, okay, is that my audience? Do I need to make more of that? And the answer is probably yes, but also, is there a portion of your audience that you're actually not reaching because of the type of content that you've got? And if so, create some more stuff to be able to reach those people. So then we're coming back to the creating stage. So we're applying what we've learned from listening and making more of that content. And you want to be constantly reviewing, listening, making more content. And then we're going back to the distribution phase. So we're going to take you through some content top tips. These are some tips that we've taken from some of the Facebook Insights training that we've been through. And it's just a really good tips that you can use when you're creating content. But I'm going to hand you over to Danielle to take you through the next slides.
Thanks, Jules. So when you're creating your content, as much as possible, you need to be mixing and matching video and static content. Campaigns with mixed content drive much better performance metrics. So think about who you're trying to target people with different forms of media that they're going to respond to. So you're trying to capture their attention. You're trying to drive these people into conversions for your business. So some people might love a video, some people might love an image. So try and mix and match where possible. And minimize the dialogue in your content. So Facebook is not a massive fan of large chunks of text, whether this be in images or in the text that goes along with your ads. So obviously, as you can see here, in above average performing ads, an average of 10 words were spoken compared to an average of 115 in below average ads. So minimize the text where possible, keep it image-based, graphic-based, and Facebook will respond better to that. So asking questions in your text copy. So think about what you're trying to get people to do with your content. You want them to engage with your content and you want them to notice it. So asking them a question, making them think is a great way to do that. And then, so when you're creating graphics or pillar content, maintain a focal point to the content. So obviously here with this Vita Coco one, the first thing you notice is the massive branded image in the center, and then you'll notice the text after. So try and test a few different methods and see what your audience is responding to. So you could create this same graphic in 10 different ways. Bigger text, smaller text, no text. It's really easy to do. It's a great way to turn one piece of content into lots of pieces of content. And you're also then giving your audience a massive range of content to choose whether they engage with or not. So add in lightweight motion. So you don't need to be a videographer or an animator to add tiny bits of motion into your campaign. You can use something like Canva. You can use the inbuilt Facebook, the tool that Facebook uses in Ads Manager, anything like this. Literally just adding slides, little bits popping out. It's really, really easy to do. You don't need to have any like special skills to do this, but it's going to drive massive results. As you can see here, achieving 17% higher conversion compared to a static image.
Another thing to consider is making sure that you've got your brand and your product early on in your content. So like we looked at in the first video that I showed you, 7 seconds you've got to basically capture people's attention. Facebook data tells us that we need to be showing the brand within the first 3 seconds to get better results, more relevance, more brand interest, and more purchase intent as well. As well as that, we should be leading with the brand in stories ads. So stories ads are just a different type of advert. They'll be on Facebook stories and Instagram stories. You can isolate your adverts to run purely on stories, but you should be making sure that all of your content is working across all the different placement types, which is something that we'll cover a little bit further down the line. But top performing stories ads integrate their branding and key messages right at the start. So as you can see, we've got a Nescafe example on the right hand side, and this literally pops up, the Nescafe orange. Everybody knows that tin. It's really obvious where it is from the get-go. As well as that, motion in stories ads help to improve direct response performance. So that gives an 88% confidence. So again, Danielle mentioned earlier about making things move. That doesn't mean you need to be a videographer. If you've got product images, you can just zoom them in and out, and just adding different motion is a really good way to test and drive optimal results. Another thing you can consider is to enhance your stories adverts with sound. So stories ads with any voiceover or any music drive better lower funnel results than ads without sound. So just think about something simple, like if you don't want to do a voiceover, that's fine. Just add a little bit of music on the top that kind of sets the scene. It's going to drive better results as well. But this is also something that you can test for your brand. And also it is worth considering that you do need to design your adverts for sound off. So make sure if you are speaking, you're adding captions to your videos, as this increases the view duration by an average of 12%. And that is a really important data to have. We're going to move on to some Facebook audiences. So back to Danielle.
Perfect. So you go to the next one for me.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 different types of audiences that you can create on Facebook. So the first one is a custom audience. So if you don't have a Facebook pixel installed, this is something that you should definitely take away from this call. It's a really important thing to have. And this means that you're then able to create a custom audience from people who have already visited your website, a customer list, or contacts that you might have. So if someone's visited your website but they've not quite purchased, or they've abandoned their cart, you can target them at this level using Facebook. So when you go on a website and you add loads of stuff to your basket and then you decide not to buy, and then you all of a sudden are seeing ads for that everywhere with 20% off, that's because they've got a Facebook pixel and they're targeting you with a custom audience like that. Then you can also create a lookalike audience, which is reaching new people based off of a custom audience that you might have. So say, for example, you have made a custom audience and then you've made a lookalike audience of it. It's going to be people who have similar interests, they're interested in similar brands, they have similar jobs, just generally similar people that aren't the same people who are already in the custom audience. And then last of all, you've got your saved audience, which is the most detailed type of audience that you can create. So you can choose your demographic, your interest, your behavior, add them all into an audience. You can do it by location, age, gender. So say, for example, if you are targeting people with friends who have birthdays coming up, you can be that specific. You could target it by people who have recently changed their relationship status to single if you're a dating app, or maybe it's complicated. Because people are telling Facebook everything, you can then target and be that specific. So 3 types of Facebook campaigns. We have awareness campaigns, so generating interest in the products or services and increasing brand awareness, telling people what your product is about, why it's worth them having a look. Then we've got consideration, getting people to think about your offerings and find out more about them. And then we've got conversion, so encouraging people to take a specific action, such as making a purchase, filling out a form, downloading something. So this is probably the bit that's gonna teach you the most. So this is step by step how we would make a campaign. So the first thing you need to decide is to choose your objective. So like we just spoke about, the awareness, consideration and conversion, this is then broken down into all of these different sections. So you need to think about what you're trying to achieve from your ad. Are you trying to increase sales on your website? Are you trying to increase downloads, or are you trying to get video views on something? So this is like a really important part for you to think about what you're trying to achieve. Then, obviously, as we just spoke about, we've got the audience. So choosing the best audience for what you're trying to achieve. So if you are a UK business who only sells in the UK, there's no point you having your location to worldwide or US. You need to be really specific about your geography, your demographic, and the behaviours of your customer. And then we've got placements, as Jules briefly mentioned earlier. You can have automatic placements, which is where Facebook will post those across Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and Audience Network. Or you can choose to run them in a specific place. So that might just be stories, it might just be Instagram, or you might just want to run it on Facebook alone. So it's best to think about where you're trying to target this customer.
So thinking about budget, this is a difficult thing to answer based on the fact that I don't know what kind of businesses we've got and who's listening. And people always ask me, what should I be spending on Facebook adverts? And it really does depend what you're trying to achieve. So Danielle mentioned traffic adverts earlier on. That's something that generally tends to be pretty cheap. And I mean, that does depend on whether the audience is a large or really niche audience. But you can get away with spending as little as £1 a day, especially if you're only a small business, and especially if you are focusing on a particular location. If you're going UK wide or even bigger worldwide, you're going to need to be spending a little bit more. And if you have got a massive audience, so say, for example, you're selling holidays and you are targeting people who have an interest in skiing, that's going to be a massive audience that you're going to want to target. So you want to be spending a little bit more. I'd recommend probably starting at like £5 a day for traffic. You can also create page-like campaigns, which is to build your audience on Facebook. And this is a really good campaign to start with because that's engaging a new audience, and they're quite likely to buy if they've already liked you on Facebook. That also tends to be relatively cheap, and we'd recommend this as a good place to start also for testing. And again, you can get away with kind of £1 a day for this kind of campaign. Conversion campaigns is always going to be way more expensive. So if you're getting people to go through and purchase, you're asking them to do a lot more. So I think if you're to take away anything, is if you're asking someone to buy or do something big like book something on your website, you're probably going to have to spend a little bit more money on Facebook ads. But it's not something that you have to commit to. You can drop in and you can change your budgets at any time if you don't think it's working, or if things change internally and you need to drop budgets and move them around. You can turn off your Facebook campaign literally in seconds as well. So it's not something you necessarily have to commit to on a big level like that. As you can see here, you can set your budget to be daily, and you'll spend basically whatever you set that. Facebook will never spend more or less, so you'll get the results for that amount. You can also set an overall budget for a campaign. So if, for example, you're doing a product launch, you could set £500 budget for that product launch, and you could set the time that you wanted it to. As you can see, you can set the end date. So say your product is launching the end of February, you could start your campaign now, set £500 budget, and Facebook will spend that accordingly for you in the time period. One thing I'd say is Facebook's really clever. It will distribute your budget according to where your audience is and what they want. And you just have to kind of trust the process to some extent as well.
So then we've got the different formats of ad that you can use. Obviously, we spoke a lot about having a mixture. Facebook will design it to work on every device. So you can choose to show a single image, you can do a video, you can do a carousel, or you can do a mixture of all of them. And Facebook is really smart in that it will show you what that image is going to look like on every single platform and every single format. So what it will look like on a phone, what it will look like on an iPad, and it will let you edit in Facebook to make sure that that's looking as it should on all of those devices.
So as I've mentioned previously, the listening phase is one of the most important parts of everything that you do. And listening basically means jumping in regularly to see how your campaigns are performing and to learn from what it is you've got going on. So there's loads of different ways that you can track the performance of your campaigns, and it obviously does depend on what type of campaign you've got on. But when you run a campaign, you'll be able to see results pretty much instantly. So if you've got a traffic campaign, you'll see how many clicks you're getting. You'll see the overall reach of that, which is how many people have seen it. And you'll also see overall impressions as well. Another thing that you can gauge the performance on is based on the cost. So if you have a really high cost per click or cost per result, then that is generally shows that you need to be improving something somewhere, whether it's your audience, whether it's your creative, or potentially your budget as well. So constantly go in, think about what you want from your campaign and learn from it. One of the things that when we set up any campaign that people make the biggest mistake is they'll pick one image to run in their campaign. You can have up to 50 images for any Facebook campaign, so or bits of creative video as well. So make sure that within one campaign, you are testing lots of types of creative and not just hoping for the best with one image. What you can then do is you can jump in and you can see, okay, what are the top performing images for my brand? And some of them, they won't get any clicks and some of them will get loads. And this is really, really valuable data for you to use or to feedback to anyone in your team. So I think this is definitely the most important part. And one piece of advice that I'd give you as well is if you are running, or if you're battling with people over like brand, or say you've got really strict brand guidelines, or you're battling with your manager on wanting to be a bit more brave with your designs and your product images or whatever that may be, Facebook is a really, really good place for you to test that, because it's behind the scenes. It's not going to ruin the feed. No one's necessarily going to see it. And like I said, if it doesn't work, Facebook it just won't get results. And yeah, you can learn a lot. So one thing that we do with some of our clients when we take on brand new clients is they'll come to us with ideas about logos, etc. And we'll just say, keep an open mind. We'll design loads of different options for you, and then we'll put them into Facebook to your audience, and we will test what the top performing is. So we've built a whole brand around what it actually is that your audience wants. So that's a really good mindset for you guys to be in as well. That's the end of our slides. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to pop them in the chat or shout out, whatever you prefer.
So Maddie said, what is the best software to use to make my creative, and do I have to pay for this software? So I would say if you are a creative person, you have something like Photoshop or Illustrator, feel free to use that. If you're not a creative person, or you just don't have the skills or the budget, use something like Canva. You can use the free version or you can use the premium version. It's not very expensive for the premium version, I don't think, is it, Jules?
I think maybe like £12 a month or something like that.
And on Canva, if you have no creative skills at all, there are so many templates. There's hundreds and hundreds of templates that you can just change to your branding, add the info you want, and you're ready to go. So I'd say that's a really easy option if you have like little or no creative skill yourself.
Nicole, what do you find is the best call to action, and what is the best way to obtain leads from the ads? Nicole, do you mind me asking what business you are?
Yeah, sorry. We're a travel business, so I don't work personally on the Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Another colleague does. I just do sort of upload it on the feed and stuff. But they currently have an ad running at the moment for Finland, and the call to action is getting like a client or whoever looks at the ad to fill out a form to obtain a quote. And my manager was wondering whether or not this is the best sort of call to action. She's not too sure whether it's working.
Okay, so what I would say for that is test the call to action first of all. So make more of the same kind of advert and swap in different types of call to actions and send the people to different places, send them to a contact form, send them to whatever it is you've got at the minute, asking them to like watch a video or anything like that. You don't really know until you've kind of tested it. In terms of for holidays, I would say that traffic's going to be one of the best options if that's what it's set up as a traffic campaign. And great example, bookings.com. Go and look at their adverts. They do it really, really well. One thing is there's a thing called Facebook Ads Library, and I will get someone to pop the link in the chat. What you can do is you can go into Facebook Ads Library and you can look at any brand that you want and you can see what kind of adverts they've got going on. So go and have a look at Bookings and other big kind of holiday companies and see what they do to get people onto the website. That's a really good place for you to start. In terms of obtaining leads, you could set up some lead campaigns as well. They will be a bit more expensive, but if you've got lots of different types of campaigns going on, you're going to be getting leads, you're going to be seeing them coming through. They might come through directly. One thing I will say is that Facebook isn't linear in the sense that people don't necessarily see an ad and then book a holiday straight away. They're probably going to think about it, come back, compare it, send it to their boyfriend, send it to their girlfriend. So a lot of the time you might not necessarily see the results coming straight from Facebook, but you'll see an increase in results if you've got lots of different stuff going on, basically.
Do you know if you have a pixel?
No, I'm not too sure.
Because if you get a pixel on your website, that's a really good opportunity to use like that remarketing. So people who have been to that form or been to the contact page, you can just add them in and your ads will keep running to them.
Okay.
So they might not necessarily filled out the form, but you can be like, still looking for a holiday, still got those winter blues type thing. Thinking about like changing up the message of people who already know who you are and they've already been on your site. That's really good. Someone's just popped the Facebook Ads Library link in the chat as well. Definitely, guys, go and have a look at it, see what your competitors are doing, and learn from that as well. Alice, Facebook ads used to work really well for us, but since an iOS update, they don't perform as well. Any tips? Alice, do you mind sharing with me what your business is? Don't know where she is.
Pick a mix.
Pick and mix. Oh, cute. So, okay, yeah.
Have you rebuilt your audiences since the update? That's a really good place to start, I would say. If you've not rebuilt your audience, we've had issues with Facebook basically just saying like, no, we can't target these people. Whereas if you rebuild your audiences, anything that they can't include, they just won't. Rather than kind of like making it more difficult for you, rebuilding it from scratch, I would say is like the first place to start. I don't know about you, Jules.
Yeah, I'd agree. And also, obviously the iOS update is predominantly affecting like your remarketing and pixel traffic. So I'm assuming you've got a Facebook pixel if you're doing those kind of adverts. So maybe have a think about expanding your funnel slightly. and building some saved data audiences at the top of the funnel to driving people in, and then using the remarketing on kind of a different aspect. That will probably be a good place for you to start in terms of if it's got more expensive, which it is one of those things as well. Facebook and Google, etc., update all the time. We can't control that, unfortunately, and sometimes you just have to kind of grin and bear it to some extent. We've seen results decline in a lot of our clients, but I think just keep going with it, keep trusting the process and testing different kind of ways to get people in. If what you have been testing isn't working as well, then that's a good sign to restart and rebuild.
Yeah, I think it's a good kind of opportunity to try and think a bit more creatively about how you make your audience. So trying to think of ways you can get around the things that Facebook isn't allowing you to do anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Hope that helped. What if I don't have time to make lots of content? Should I still use Facebook ads? Yeah. If you take anything away from this, go and book out one day where you just make as much as you can. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to be amazing at marketing. You can literally go on to Shutterstock or Pixabay or one of the free image places and just download loads of stuff, build it into Facebook ads and just have something running. If you've got product pictures, go and just put them all in. It's better than nothing. And yeah, my genuine answer is everybody should be using Facebook ads, and you're silly if you aren't. What else? How can I make my Facebook ads mobile first? So one of the best ways to do that is to actually use your phone. So when we have product shoots in our studio, we obviously have a fancy camera, but we also take a lot of the shots on our phone and they go straight onto social. People are consuming stuff on their phone, so there's nothing wrong with making it on your phone as well. So many companies spend hours and hours making massive images and graphics that you could literally put on the side of a bus. It doesn't need to be that. One of the things that is a really good place to start is Canva, that we've already mentioned, because you can basically make one design and then you can resize it into all of the specific mobile sizes, so like Instagram size, Facebook size, story size, literally with the click of a button. So that's really good.
I also think Canva's a good one if you've got no time as well, because you can literally put a load of templates into one kind of like thread, and you can change the colours in one go. So it's so easy and so quick just to make like 20-30 designs. You could do it in half an hour.
For sure. And we've spoken a lot about testing stuff as well. You don't have to necessarily have millions of types of angles of things and loads of different designs. You don't need to have 50 ideas in your head. You can literally make one, like this slide we've got right in front of me now, questions, changing the background color, changing the font, changing even the color of the font, or making it slightly smaller, bigger. They are just really quick ways for you to save time to actually make that content as well. I think that's all of the questions. Has anyone else got any questions at all?
How many times per week do you think you should post on Facebook? And is it, I know they have like different formats in terms of the pictures. Is it when you go on the Facebook business suite, can you change it to suit Instagram, or do you have to design all that in Canva and do it separately?
It's completely up to you, to be fair. You can, Instagram is more fussy with the format and of stuff. So if you're going to start anywhere, I would say make everything square, and then Facebook is a bit more like flexible with the sizing on images and things like that. But again, Canva is really simple, where you can literally, there's a drop down, you make a design in square and then you can change it to Facebook size, literally with one click of a button. So it's not too difficult to do that. You can then use a scheduling tool to put it out there if that saves you time as well. In terms of posting per day, I don't think there's such thing as too much. That is a bit of a myth. People think that your audience is going to be spammed. Facebook's algorithm is a lot cleverer than we are, and it will distribute your content according to your audience, where they are and what they're doing. So say, for example, you post once a day and your posts reach an average of 100 people. If you're posting twice a day, you're going to double the amount of people being reached. So think about posting as like opportunities to be on people's timeline. One mistake everyone makes is they always, because you're close to it, you will see all the posts, so you'll think there's loads, but that's not how your audience sees it. So yeah, post as much as you can. I think you can get some analytics tools as well that will, once you plug it in, it will recommend how many times a day you should post and where your audience are and what they're kind of doing. And that's a good place for you to start. But honestly, the more the better. Don't worry about it. No one sees, no one cares.
And then Rachel has said, what's a good time scale to be checking tweaking ads to make sure you're giving it enough time to have an impact? So we would say 14 days is the learning phase for Facebook. So once you've put those on, Facebook recommend that you don't touch them. So don't change any text, don't change any images, leave them as they are for 14 days for Facebook to learn where they're going, who they need to go to, where the budget needs to go to. Then after those 14 days, you can go in, have a look, learn, optimize, switch off any ads that aren't working, change your budget around. But as long as you give it that 14 days to learn, it should have enough time to make an impact.
Simone, finding it harder to interact with audience on Facebook using ads or posting on the business page. Do you have any tips for more interaction? Think about probably the ways in which what type of content you've got putting out there. So maybe thinking about having like questions, getting people more involved, having a look at polls and things like that. Especially if you're trying to get people to comment, but think about what it actually is that you want people to do and why it is that you're getting them to do that. Because sometimes it is just a vanity metric. So if you're getting that traffic and you're getting those customers coming through, then focusing on that is probably a better place for you to be. It's much more valuable to have a post that gets 1 like but gets a customer than it is to have a post that has 50 likes and gets no customers. So think about what you want to prioritize in terms of your results. But yeah, testing different types of content and different types of messaging is a good way to kind of see what kind of engages and gets more interaction from your customers as well. Callum, is there a best part of the day to post? My answer would be when someone's online, which is always. There's loads of blogs that you can go and read that say post at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday to get the most interaction. What happens when every brand posts at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday? You're literally just putting your post out there when there's more competition. And then the blog the next day is going to say, oh, post at 5 on a Tuesday instead now. Yeah, just post all the time. Don't overthink it. It's going to reach your audience at the right time. And a good post will last a long time as well. It will keep going. So yeah, don't overthink that. Reach, B2B, B2C. What is your business, Rachel? You don't mind me asking? That's a really good question. Marketing and PR agency. Wow. Okay. So obviously we're an agency, so we tend to think differently about our marketing because nobody sees an advert on Facebook and thinks, oh my God, social media marketing agency, that's exactly what I need. I'm going to get that right now. You have to think a little bit bigger when you're targeting something that's a bigger purchase like this, and obviously it's a long-term purchase. So from our point of view, we use events. So you guys are all on this, so you fell for whatever marketing that we did to get you on here. Thinking about Facebook ads, like what are you trying to get, providing a little bit more value. So we run quite a few Facebook video adverts. Sam, our managing director, will talk about he'll do like little expert sessions talking about what's going on in the industry, things like that, which we run on video adverts. People then watch those videos, and we basically can see how many people have watched it, how much of the video they've watched, understand kind of how interested they are in the brand, and then use that, because that's all captured in the Facebook pixel and your data as well. Also, B2B, they're just people, they're still people. So everyone can be targeted on Facebook. Like, instead of thinking of your marketing as being towards businesses, think about the people in those businesses that you're trying to target. So for us, we've got campaigns for obviously like managing directors, business owners, etc. You can target the people based on their job title in Facebook. So that's a really good place for you to start. You can also target people based on their company. So if you're a marketing and PR agency that goes for bigger companies like Deloitte or anyone like that, you can target people who work for Deloitte or whoever as well. And then also you can target people based on what they studied at university or at school. So yeah, just kind of changing your mindset to think about your audience as people as opposed to a business. It's probably a good place for you to start. Hope that helps. Has anyone else got any questions at all? No? Amazing. So thank you so much to everybody who has attended. I hope that's been really helpful for you all. We've got our contact details here on the screen. If anybody needs any help, any advice, please drop us an email and we'll be more than happy to help if you've got a specific question. Also, just drop me a WhatsApp as well and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And any inquiries, or if you want to know a little bit more about Gather Social and what we do, head to our website, which is just down at the bottom as well. But thank you so much. And I hope, oh yes, Geraldine, we'll send the video around in a follow-up email as well, so you guys can come and watch this back anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, bye.